Hello guys and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. So we will be continuing with our impact series, and in this session we will start by discussing the essay paper. Alright, so here we'll be ensuring how to improve our essay writing. See, essay is a subject or it's a paper wherein it's a high risk, high reward paper. Now why do I say that? The marks in essays can go beyond 150, 160, so on and so forth. So it's on the higher side as compared to your GS papers. So it's at par, if not more, with respect to your optional papers. So it is a high reward paper. But then why is high risk also attached with it? That is because you have to write 2 essays of 125 marks each. So if you go wrong, if you do not address what is required, if you go wayward, your 125 marks, if you go wayward in one essay, 125 marks are at stake. Now that does not happen in your GS papers, for example. So the questions are of 15 marks, 10 marks, so on and so forth. So if you, let's say, go wrong in a single question or a question or a two, you have lost or gone wrong in 10 or 15, 30 marks, so on and so forth. But here it's a complete 125 marks at stake. So that is why the importance of ensuring that we are addressing what is asked becomes utmost important. So it is a high risk, high reward paper, but worry not, we will ensure that how you can avoid the risk completely, in the sense that address what is required. So once we achieve that basic minimum requirement, which we will understand when we go into the detail of this lecture, then subsequently we will see how you can excel in it. So there will be 2 steps in this entire essay sessions, in which we will be ensuring that you reach a level wherein there is no question of risk whatsoever, and then we further push you to the excellence of essay writing. Alright, so let's begin now. Let me just give you an overview what the first session has in store. There will be follow-up sessions, of course, but this first session will be slightly different because it's not just the PYQs or previous year topics that we will discuss. In the other session we'll discuss just the PYQs or previous year topics, but in this section, in this particular session, along with a previous year topic of essay, we will be seeing how to attempt essay, how to prepare for essay, what is required, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, each and everything we'll see first, and then we will go into the previous year topic. So let's get started. First things first, the syllabus of essay. So there is no specific syllabus of essay as per UPSC. Like it's there for, let's say, for example, history, geography, etc. But whatever bit we know about essay or how to write it, it plays a very important role. In fact, I would say at times, arguably, it can play a more important role than your syllabus for, let's say, history. What is the syllabus for history? History of India and the Indian national movement. That is your syllabus for history for prelims. Now, it doesn't tell you much, so you basically have to study everything with a special focus on national movement. However, here, if you read this one single paragraph, this is going to teach you a lot about essay and how it has to be written. So let's go through that in detail. It says that candidates are expected to keep closely to the subject. Means what? Whatever the topic is asked, you have to keep closely to that. Do not go away from it. To keep closely to the subject of the essay, to arrange their ideas in orderly fashion. So you have to arrange your ideas in an orderly fashion. For example, if, for example, the essay is about myself, I'm writing about myself, I cannot start with respect to what I did in 12th standard, then go back to 10, then come to engineering, then presently what I'm doing, then go back to childhood. Now, what is happening? The ideas here are randomly arranged. So does it make sense? It will not make sense. There will be no link. So this ideas, I have portrayed ideas, but I have randomly thrown it and at random fashion. So what should I do? I should arrange them in an orderly fashion, like you would see in a resume, which starts with the presently what you're doing and goes back into the history. So you can do that. You can start with respect to the present, go back into the history, or the other way around, start from the historical background and then come to the present scenario. So whatever it is, there needs to be a proper order to this particular flow of ideas that you have. Then, and to write concisely. Of course, you have to write concisely. This is not a university examination. Very many a time it is alleged that the more you write in a university exam, the more marks you get, and then people start writing anything and everything. At times, it is alleged that people have written songs and still got answers. So all that nonsense is not going to work here. Of course, it's not just that you have to stay relevant, because it is going to be thoroughly checked, and maybe it is also estimated that a single paper is checked multiple times, especially your GS and even the essays, to grade you or give you marks. Now, having said that, of course, you have to write relevant, but at the same time, you have to write it concisely. You don't have to beat around the bush. You don't have to say the same things multiple times, or say the same thing in active voice as well as passive voice. For example, the tiger ate the deer, and when I saw it, I realized that the deer was eaten by the tiger. Now it's the same sentence. You are saying it in active and passive voice. All these gimmicks, all these things just to fill the paper, of course, is not required. And a serious aspirant, anyhow, who has reached there, is not expected to do that. So it has to be concise, and credits will be given for effective and exact expression. So whatever your thoughts are there, you should be able to express them clearly. Sometimes what happens is, you know what you want to say, you have the knowledge, but you're not able to present it. So you want to say something, it means completely different thing, etc., etc. So here you have to be effective and exact expression. So you have to have the exact expression plus be effective. Effectiveness can be brought in with the help of examples, with the help of backing of Supreme Court judgments, of policy, acts, government schemes, so on and so forth, which we will see as we move ahead with the actual topics of UPSC essays. Having said that, now, how to prepare for the essay paper is also a very important question. So first thing, no additional study is required, meaning you are not required to read any additional book, specifically these kind of books which talks about top 100 essays, top 150 essays, essays by them, different essays, 100 essays to improve UPSC essay writing. It does not help. If you actually look at these essays, and after this session, what kind of an essay you will write, trust me, your essays would be way better than any of the essays written over here. The essays in such books are generally unidimensional. They cater only to one dimension. Multiple dimensions are completely neglected. The different parts of the essays are neglected. There are no flip sides. There are no multiple perspectives that are shown. The examples are not there, so on and so forth. It faces a lot of challenge. The paragraphs are too big. The bifurcation, the structure, the coherence, everything is a mess in a book like this. You are supposed to write way better the essay than what is written over here. Be absolutely clear and worry not. We will be helping you to do that. Having said that, is there nothing you should do? No, you should do one thing, that is pre-preparation. Now, I was saying that no additional study is required. Then what this pre-preparation is? This pre-preparation is not about reading any particular book for essay. Then what it is about? It is about preparing your fodder for the essay. So going forward in the session, I'm going to tell you what all are the themes on which UPSC have asked essay in the last 30 plus years. So we have gathered all the themes. There are, I think, around 19-20 themes are there. So UPSC has stuck to these themes only, and essays have been asked on that. So you should be ready with few things with respect to those themes. Let's say we take one theme, for example, gender equality. So for this particular theme, you should have around 5 positive quotes and around 5 negative quotes ready, handy with you. At the same time, you can have a small anecdote, or you can call a small story that is going to help you start the essay. Proverbs will also help you start the essay, and any facts, figures, or let's say survey, etc., survey data, etc. you should mention this over here. And see, I'm not going to ask you to mention schemes, etc. also over here, because for a serious aspirant, you will be having cleared prelims, you will have that knowledge, you will know about a lot of schemes, so that you should automatically be able to use. That knowledge you are already gaining when you are studying for your GS and optional, etc., for your prelims as well as your mains. right? So I won't go into that kind of a knowledge, but additional knowledge apart from the GS and optional study that you have been doing. So this is an additional knowledge, that is anecdote, story, positive, negative proverbs, plus some specific facts and figures you would like to mention. Remember, why I'm saying this now, this also you'll study for GS, but why specifically with respect to the theme? Because the same facts or figures which you are writing in a GS paper should be written, or you try to write it in a different way which is more impactful, because the answer writing, the writing for GS paper and essay is completely different. In GS you have 150 words, 250 words, so you have to be very to the point. You have to list the points, you have to write in pointers, 1 2 3 also in so many parts of the questions, wherein you just directly mention what it is. But in essay there will be more elaboration from your end. So if you are writing, let's say for example, in GS paper a sentence is India has 20% of child hunger. So instead of saying, you can mention here one in every 5 child in India goes to sleep empty stomach. So this is a better way of putting an impact in an essay, and that kind of sentences will be required over here. So when I say you should have some facts, figures, survey, etc., I'm not just saying just mention the random fact. Try to write that fact in an innovative way, in a way that you can directly utilize in your essays. That is what is going to help you excel. So these things you have to do for all the themes that I am going to mention to you in this session. I hope that's absolutely clear. Now, one very important thing. See, you will be writing essays. We will be giving you feedback. You will be writing essays in your test series. We will be checking it, giving you feedback. Do not make one mistake which is going to cost you. Never ever do or follow this method of writing the easiest of easy essays every single time. Don't do that. What is the use of it? The use of test series is not to just try to get as much marks as possible. Of course, marks is there. That's how you challenge yourself. That's how you try to improve. That's how you see your performance. That is there. That is a given. But this given is not just the only benefit. What other thing you have to do in your test series or the essays that you are writing is practice. So you have to do practice. So if you just keep on writing the easiest of the easy essays, you will not be skilling up your level in difficult essays. And if in UPSC paper it so happens that section A or section B, or I mean one of the section, or at times both, are sections such that there is no easy topic as per your strength and weakness, then what? Then what happens? Then what will happen is, it will be the first time you ever write an essay outside your comfort zone, and there are high chances that that's gonna mess up. Of course, not necessarily, but I hope you understand that there will be high chances that you mess up. Hence, I would advise you to practice difficult essays also in your practice essay writing, in your writing for test series as well. So whenever you're writing test series, make sure that you practice difficult essays as well in the test series. I hope that is absolutely clear. So writing only easy essays for practice is a big no. Do not do that. If you do that, you won't be practicing enough and you will hit the roadblock. So that is not the way forward. Practice it. Practice the ones you find it the most difficult, at times philosophical essays. Now, since the last 5-6 years, too many philosophical essays are coming in one fine year. I think in 2021 around, I think what happened is one section was entirely philosophical. The other section also has another 2 essays which were philosophical. So in the second section, maybe you might have a choice, but in the first section, in one of the sections wherein all essays are philosophical, you have to go ahead and write that philosophical essay. You cannot do anything about it. So please practice your essay accordingly. Fine. Now, coming on to how to attempt the essay paper. So number 1 pointer here is the topic selection. Which topic do you select? Some people say that I'm going to select the easiest topic. Why? Because that is my strength. And that's a good reasoning. Some people say, no, I'm not going to select the easiest topic because many of the people will select the easiest topic. So I'm going to select a difficult topic which very few will select. And then I'm going to write essay in that so that I can get exceptional marks, better marks, so on and so forth. So there is always a trade-off between easy topic or difficult topic. So let me give 2 cents on these 2 things. See, Do not have a prejudicial mind. No one knows how the checking goes. So do not consider that just because I write an essay which not many have written, I may get good marks. Don't do that, because what can happen is you might think this is just an assumption, a presumption. You are expecting that to happen, but you don't know it for sure. That's point number one. Point number two, because of that, you are going in a direction in which you are weak. That's not your strength. See, sometimes a difficult essay can be your strength also. That's well and good. Maybe difficult for others, very easy for you, and it is also not going to be selected by many aspirants. Then that is fine. Go ahead, no questions asked. That is the easiest way forward. But if that question, you realize that not many are going to answer, but for you also it is difficult, so think twice before going ahead with it, because you may make a blunder. And as I said, it's a high risk, high reward thing. So do not go outside your comfort zone when you are having other essay topics which are there with respect to your strength. Having said that, what happens is you gain with experience. So when I wrote my essay paper in 2016, so I had written 2 essays in section A, section B, such that both were probably the most common essays. In section A, I wrote related to gender equality, and in section B, I wrote about cyberspace and internet, a boon or a bane to the human civilization. Now, it cannot get any easier than that, or it cannot get any more popular than that. These 2, trust me, were the most popular essays in 2016's essay paper. And where do I stand after I wrote the essay? I've scored more marks than All India rank 1 of that year in essay paper. I was one of the toppers in essay. So how did that happen? I wrote an easy essay. So what? Still ensured that we got the marks. So that is why this is a tried and tested method, right? People tested with their experience. So this is the experience that I'm sharing over here. So do not go into the difficult domain unless and until, or the less popular domain, unless and until that is your strength. Okay, so there needs to be a proper balance between that. If it is slightly bit difficult, but if it is no matter how difficult or how less popular, if it's your strength, go ahead with it, or else think twice before going ahead with it. If an essay topic is very easy, or you might think, a lot of students will write it, but if it is your strength, you are exceptional at it, go ahead with it. Me having sociology as an optional and then having gender equality as a topic, it was my strength, so I went with that. The second part, cyberspace and internet, boon or a bane. Being an engineer, I know about technology, this, that, and anyhow, any serious aspirant knows it's not about being an engineer also. You have that data, right? So you become strong, right? And at the first section had a topic which is related to sociology, which was my optional. So I played with my strength. I didn't search for something which would be difficult, so that can be tried. Think twice. I'm not saying don't go ever with a difficult topic. I'm not saying that. If you have practiced those kind of topics and you have become good at it, fair enough. I'm just saying think twice before taking such a decision. Now the third pointer here is optional related essay. Should you be selecting an optional related essay? See, the simple answer over here will be yes, but I will give you certain conditions applied over here. So if you are selecting, you should, in fact, I would advise people to use optional related, but with a particular disclaimer or with a particular advice to you. So why to choose optional related? Because your depth of knowledge will be amazing over there. However, when you do that, here comes the disclaimer, or here comes the advisory. When you do that, ensure that you do not make the essay a paper of your optional. Means what? Means do not, for example, sociology optional, gender equality essay. I didn't go and kept on writing about sexual division of labor by Emile Durkheim, Karl Marx's economic determinism, this, that. I did not make it too much technological with respect to sociology, sociological terminologies, right? Maybe a Karl Marx I may mention because very famous, universal, but I can't mention others. I can't mention Emile Durkheim, not that famous, and even if famous, too many sociological thinkers is not required. It's not a sociology answer. So, and phrases, too complex phrases of sexual division of labor and this and that, too much of that should not be there. That should be avoided. Optional topics should be chosen so that you have in-depth knowledge. You will have surveys, this, that, data, everything different perspectives, multiple dimensions. That is going to help you a lot, but avoid making it completely optional answer, too technical answer. You should not make it. If you can do that, I would advise you go with the topic which is related to your optional paper. And of course, also you should be knowing it. It's not that it's just related, so go ahead. It comes with a pre-decided condition that you know that particular topic. Now, having selected the topic, now comes the second part of time distribution. So you have 3 hours over here. Now in 3 hours you have to write 2 essays. That means you have 1.5 hours for one essay. That means you have 90 minutes per essay. Is that clear? So you have a 90 minute per essay. So the logic here or the distribution here is very straightforward. Apply the 30-60 rule. Now, what is this 30-60 rule? 30-60 rule says that for one essay, I am giving you the 30-60 rule. Same applies for the other essay also. 60 minutes to write the essay. 60 minutes to write the essay and 30 minutes to decide topic. Maybe you require 5 minutes to make the framework of the essay, around 25 minutes. Now, when you do this for one essay and the second essay also, what happens? 30 plus 30 minutes total, 1 hour of the paper will go for deciding the topic and the framework, and only 2 hours will go for actual writing. That is completely okay. It is not less. However, of course, you try it and see it for yourself. Why is it not less? If you look at the GS paper, there are total 4,000 words that you have to write. 10 questions of 250 words, 10 questions of 150 words. So that is 1500 plus 2500, that is 4000 words. Now in essay, you have to write 2 essays of 1000 to 1200 words, right? Even if you go up to 1200 words, so how many words are you writing? 2400 words. So if you are writing 4000 words in 3 hours, 2400 words in 2 hours is a piece of cake, a walk in the park. Makes sense? So that is why time would not be an issue with respect to the speed or the word requirement. So at the same time, you don't have to think multiple times, because every time you have to read the question, the time goes there, think about the structure and then write. All that reading of the question, selection of the topic, making the framework, the structure, everything will be done automatically here. So it is pure writing that you have to do, right? That is why this should be the time distribution. It can slightly fluctuate, of course, 25 minutes for all these things and 65 minutes, so on and so forth, or 20 minutes and 70 minutes, something like that. But it has to be a good amount, 25-30 minutes. It has to be. I'll tell you why. Because when you're making a framework here, this framework has to go up to the micro level of structure. Micro level of structure. The framework, I'm not saying it should be like, I'll write the provisions, then I'll write what are the positives, negatives, solutions, challenges for when I come up with such solutions, and what is the way forward to it, and conclusion. No, this is not 7-8 pointers that I'm mentioning you. Let me give an example what I'm trying to say over here. So if you are writing the positives of something, so you should not just write, okay, I'll write positives, I'll write negatives. That should not be the case. That I have written positive, I have written negative. No, that should not be the case. Then what should be the case? The case should be, if you're saying that you will write positives, so mention here that I will write positives. Positives, politically, what is the positive of this? Economically, what is the positive of this? Socially, what is the positive of this? Ethically, what is the positive of this? Etc, etc. And given exam, mention the example also. I'll mention an example. So politically positive, economically, socially, ethically, with one example. If you come up with such example which you can forget, mention the example also over here. So this is just the positive section of your framework. This is how it will look like. So what happens when you write the actual essay? It is just like filling the blanks. I hope that is absolutely clear. So this is the detail we will go to. For example, if you're talking about solutions, you will not just write that I will mention solution. You will write solutions short term, then, or let me write it here. So if I'm saying I will write solutions, then solutions will be short term. Under short term, at individual level, at the organizational level, at the national level, at the international level. Then I will mention long term solutions at again the individual, organization, national and international level. So I have broken down solution into 8 different categories. So one sentence each means 100 words, close to 100 words are gone. This is how you make the framework. The framework needs to be broken down into micro levels such that each heading, subheading or micro heading should not have more than 2 sentences in it. That should be your breakup. If your breakup of the essay is having 10 sentences, 15 sentences, 100 to 100 words, trust me, that is not a breakup. The breakdown, it's not the breakdown. The breakdown should happen at a micro level, which wherein each heading, subheading does not consist more than 2 sentences. Right? I hope that's clear. Now, moving ahead, how should the structure of the essay look like? So the very first thing is the introduction. How do you begin your essay paper? Now here, there are different ways to begin. Now, how do you begin at times will also tell you what should be the main body and how you conclude. Some of the examples will tell you that. Some of the examples may not tell you that as well. So these are the various ways in which you can structure or begin your essay, which will then decide how the structure goes ahead. The very first way is to start with a proverb. So as I have told you already, the 19 themes that are there for essays, you should have positive, negative proverbs, stories, etc. written over there. So when you have those proverbs ready with you, you can utilize that and introduce your essay with the help of this particular proverb. However, when you are using a proverb for introduction, remember that the introduction is not complete yet, because a proverb may be 1 or 2 lines. Now that is not enough for an introduction to an essay of 1200 words. Your introduction should be close to 3/4 of a page length, so around 75 words should be there in the introduction. So this proverb can be one thing which you can write at the top, but apart from that, subsequently you can use any combination of these particular things along with the proverb. So what you can do is relate it to current affairs, relate the things with respect to current affairs. So how do you do it? Let's say the question is on gender equality. You have written a proverb. After writing a proverb, you can start with the present situation of gender equality which is there. If any report was in news, what did it say? What is India's present situation? What is the situation of the world? All those things can be written over here. Or the same topic can be started with a historical background. Historical background as in tracing the complete gender equality scenario from history up to the present situation. So starting right from the Vedic period, the early Vedic period, then the later Vedic period, what happened, then subsequently what happened, then there was invasion, what happened during the British rule, what was the scenario, India after independence, how it was, and what is the present scenario with respect to gender equality can be your introduction. Another thing can be an anecdote. Anecdote is what? Anecdote is nothing but like a short story. So it can be a story in which you can be involved. Anecdote is basically generally what you have experienced. So anecdotes, generally you should not use it as such, but as a story form. You should not use it to back your statement. You cannot say that, I have not seen anyone do untouchability. I have not ever experienced caste discrimination. So caste discrimination does not exist. You cannot use these anecdotes or self-experience to claim such big things. However, you can use anecdotes or story to start an essay wherein you are not concluding anything. You are not, coming to a conclusion because I experienced this is how it is. You should not say that. If you can avoid that, then yes, you can use the storyline or the anecdote in your essays as well. Now, the next interesting way to start is your questioning method. So in questioning method, what happens is the introduction consists of 10 to 12 questions. And when you have around 10 to 12 questions, the remaining essay would be nothing but answering those 10 to 12 questions that you have written in the introduction of your essay. So this is another way to start your essay. Then you have the final way. There can be more ways. There can be combination of it as well. We are studying it separately. Now another way is writing with respect to your GS papers, GS 1, 2, 3 and 4. So how do we do this? For example, again, let's stick to the gender equality. So we are trying to start this gender equality essay in different ways. We have seen current affairs, historical background, story, questioning. So you raise 10, 12 questions with respect to gender equality and then answer them in the rest of the essay. Then the final one is GS 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what you can do is GS 1. What does GS 1 consist of? History, geography, social issues, etc. So you go again to the history part. GS 1, talk about historically how the gender equality issue has been. Talk about how geographically it has been scattered, or how uneven or even for that matter it is with respect to geography. Talk about what issues that it has been creating. Then when you talk about the solution, you can look for the solution with respect to GS2 when you talk about the policies, the governance, the formulation of policies, the reservation, etc. Then the impacts that it has on the economy, etc. And what solution, what will happen to the economy if gender equality is established. At the same time, don't forget to mention about the ethical, that is GS4, ethical aspects of gender inequality, and why it is ethically also required to ensure that gender equality is there. So like this, you will cover all the dimension, and the flow will also be from paper 1, 2, 3 to paper 4. This paper 4 will ensure that ethical issues are also taken into consideration. Even if the question is related to economy or any other thing, a sentence or a paragraph or an idea about the ethics will really help you get those additional marks. Now, once you have started and written the main body like that, then conclusion is also very important for the essay, especially because it is at the end that the evaluator is going to give you the marks, at the very end. So if the conclusion is messed up, the final impression of the evaluator will not be good on your essay paper. But if the conclusion is good, that does not mean just the conclusion has to be good, the essay need not be good. Everything has to be good, but conclusion also has to be good so that the impact of your essay is not lowered. So when you talk about the conclusion, one thing you should always avoid is ensure that you are not writing solution or way forward as a part of conclusion. Solution or way forward are more or less the same thing, and these should form a part of the main body of the essay and not the conclusion of the essay. So that means what? Is solution or way forward equal to the conclusion? No, absolutely not. They are not equal. Conclusion is completely different to solution and way forward. Now, why is that the case? So if you are in an essay writing about any challenge, the next thing that should follow the challenge is the solution. Now that particular solution is going to be a detailed solution. You are going to tell what needs to be done to improve, right? That is not going to be your conclusion. That should form the main body. Then what is a conclusion? To write conclusion, think to yourself that whatever solution you have told, whatever solution you have given, whatever way forward you have come up with, if those things are implemented properly, effectively, then what does the future look like? How India or the world or the things with respect to gender equality will be in the future? Assume that, think that, imagine that, and mention that in your conclusion, and make sure that the conclusion is positive, goal oriented and aspirational in your orientation. Avoid writing negative conclusions. Avoid raising further issues or challenges in conclusion. Avoid writing solution in conclusion. Conclusion is very distinct. Sometimes in GS paper, especially in 10 markers, we may end the question or end the answer with a solution or way forward. That is fine because there is paucity of words. But here that is not the case. You have 1000 to 1200 words. So please ensure that your conclusion is a separate entity and it is different from your solution, etc. Now, a very important question again with respect to the structure of your essay. The question is how much weightage you should give with respect to the pointers related to India and the pointers related to the world. Now, this question may not arise in all the essays, but in some of the essays. For example, if an essay is talking about India only, for example, democracy of India, then of course the entire essay is restricted, limited to India only. You can have the example of world or the other countries here and there, but majorly it is related to India. So if the essay specifically mentions India, it is completely India related, with some of the examples, of course, of the world, positive, negative, good practices you can take from the world, but majorly it has to be India related. That is 90% plus it has to be India related. Some of the examples can be from the rest of the world. Now, if the essay is talking about world, now here is the problem. If the essay, for example, I gave you the essay of 2016 saying that cyberspace and internet, is it a boon or bane for the human civilization? So when you talk about human civilization, they are talking about the entire world. Now what do? Now will it be completely world, 90% world and just some amount of India? Probably not. Why? Because we are writing the UPSC Civil Services examination for India. That is why, even though it is the world, still what will happen is India's weightage will still be there and the world's weightage will also be there. It can be around 50-50%. So even in this essay, India needs to be involved. However, of course, here the world also is involved to a higher extent, that is close to 50%. So this is how you should divide. You should not, just because in the essay it is just world mentioned, you should not completely 100% focus on the world, but 40-50% of weightage to India should still be given. Now, how can I say that? Because exactly this type of thing I had done and scored amazing marks. So you can also do that. Follow this. This is a way forward with respect to the weightage that you should give. Now, before we move ahead to the particular topic, let us see certain do's and don'ts which you should keep in mind while answering the essay paper. So the very first thing is use simple language. Do not go for flowery language. Do not go for complex language. Do not go for complex words. That is not a, let's say a challenge or a test of how difficult words you can use. It is rather a task in which they will check how easily you can do that, how easily you can present certain things, right? So use simple language. Now, how you can use simple language? You can use simple language by use of simple sentences, small sentences, short sentences rather than complex sentences, and use the vocabulary also very simple. So of course, the opposite of this is avoid complex languages. It does not help. Then in do's you have, let's look at the list of do's first. Ensure coherence in your essay. What is coherence? Coherence means if this is the first paragraph, the second paragraph should be a logical way forward. For example, if my one paragraph is talking about challenges, the next logical paragraph has to deal with solution. If I write challenges, then I write, let's say, some positives, then I write solution, it is not going to make sense. The evaluator will understand what you have written, but there is no coherence, there is no flow, there is no interest in the evaluator to read your answer properly. And they will still read it because it's their task, but they are not going to give you good marks. Then ensure all the dimensions are covered. So again, I will repeat that even if it is an economy related topic, still you don't have to just restrict yourself to economy because it is general studies related essay. So if I give you that India's economy, India can become fastest growing. Do you think India can become fastest growing economy of the world? So if this is the essay topic, so you will not simply talk about the advantages of becoming the fastest growing economy of the world with respect to economy only. You will also talk about how it can address social issues, social inequality, ethical issues, governance issues, so on and so forth. Everything you are going to mention. Now that dimension is hidden. Where is it hidden? It is hidden in your own head because the topic is completely purely economic, but you should know that you should write the other things also in that particular essay. Now again, another important thing, give varied example, especially in questions which are related to culture, which are related to religion, so on, intolerance, so on and so forth. Because what can happen is in those kind of essays, your biasness can come up. So if your question is related to religion and you are wanting to talk about certain negatives about it, ensure that the examples that you are giving does not belong to one particular kind of practices or one particular section of the society only. It should be varied. In the same manner, when you are writing positives also, it should be varied, or else it so happens that with respect to X section of the society, you have always talked about negatively. With respect to Y section of the society, you have always talked positively. This shows a complete inherent bias, and UPSC does not need a civil servant who has an inherent bias inside them. So they would want someone who is unbiased. So what should happen when you're talking about negative? Use X, Y, Z, all the communities, positive X. You talk about X, Y, Z, all the communities here as well, so as to produce a balance. Then of course, write elaborately, unlike GS papers. In GS paper, you write based on sentences, one-liners, pointers, point 1, 2, 3, 4. Avoid those pointers over here. Write it in an elaborate manner. Paragraphs are the way forward in essay. Okay. Now let's come on to the don'ts that we should take care of. Avoid complex language, as I said previously. Do not repeat essay statement. So, for example, the essay statement is talking about India being the fastest growing economy of the world. Don't keep on repeating India can become the fastest growing economy of the world if it does this, this, this. India will not become the fastest growing economy of the world because of this, this, this. So, don't keep on repeating the same sentence which the essay topic has used. Sometimes you have a tendency, attraction to do that because you then think that I am able to justify. No, your justification should be based on sentences, proofs, evidences, facts, figures, reports, judgments, and the concepts that you are bringing forward should tell what way you are leaning towards. Repetition of sentence is not going to help. And of course, do not repeat the ideas. If you are starting with a particular idea, ensure that you comprehensively complete it and end it. Do not start the idea, keep it half cooked, then move to another idea and get back to the previous idea to complete it. Do not do it. Do not repeat the idea. Do not repeat the idea because of paucity of knowledge. That should not happen. Then do not end abruptly, very important. Ensure that the solution or the conclusion also is of at least half a page. Conclusion has to be there, and the conclusion should be very coherent. It should not feel that here you are just discussing the challenges and suddenly you realize that the answer sheet is over. So you have to end it abruptly. That should not happen. So always ensure how many sheets you have. You basically have, except for if you remove the rough worksheets, you have around 11 sheets to write 1000 to 1200 words. So when you are near to your 9th sheet, you should know that now only 2 more sheets are left, and now I need to finish off the remaining part plus half a page for conclusion I have to do. So if you keep all that in mind, you will ensure that you do not end it abruptly. And then finally, now this should be done in GS and optional paper, in every paper, including the essay paper, that is name calling. Avoid name calling, avoid naming and shaming, avoid naming a particular section of the society, naming the prime minister, president, this, that, for anything. You can of course mention things generically. For example, a particular section of the society are against these particular things. However, some part of the society is in favor of that. Mention that. Do not name them. Do not name and shame them. You have to be very generic. Your answers, your essay have to be quite diplomatic. I hope that is clear. Now, so this is how you should be attempting your basically your essay paper. Now, having said that, before we move on to the previous year question, let us look at the themes of the essays. What topics are the themes of the essay topics? So on what themes the essay topics have been asked? Number 1 is administration. So administration by the governance system. Then democracy, India since independence, democratic nature, is India flawed democracy, and all these kind of questions will be there, or topics will be there. Then economic growth and development, India's economic growth, the speed of the growth, the development, economic development, socio-economic development. Then federalism and decentralization. This is going to be related to the state government or the state government's relation among each other, or state government's relation with the central government, so on and so forth. Indian culture and society. Then you have judiciary, judicial activism, judicial revivalism, judicial overreach. Then you have social justice and poverty. Now, generally in social justice and poverty, you will find very easy topics. However, one thing to be remembered in federalism and decentralization, sometimes very specific topics will be there over here. What do I mean by specific topics? Specific topic means they can talk about the interstate water, river water issues. So when you are attracted to attempt that paper, make sure you have huge amount of content. You might have heard about the Kaveri river water issue between the state of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. You might have read it, you might have some knowledge about it. So the moment the interstate river water dispute comes into picture, you have that in mind and you start writing that answer, that essay. Now the problem is, after 100, 200 or 300-400 words, you may exhaust your knowledge about it. So you need to be very clear when you are writing a topic that is very specific. If the topic is generic with respect to federalism, that India discussed or critically analyzed the let's say federalism, cooperative federalism in India. Now this is generic. You can include river water dispute will be one part of it, one small part of it. There are various other things you will mention, but specifically mentioning interstate river water dispute becomes very, very specific. So there will be essays which will be very specific, which will be very generic. Generic essays, you won't have any issue with respect to the knowledge. In specific essay, you need to be absolutely sure that you have good amount of knowledge to cater to that requirement. Then you have media and society, and another important or easy topic related theme, that is environment and urbanization. Then you have economic sectors, that is the different sector, the primary sector, secondary sector, so on and so forth. And then again, few easy topics are coming, that is related to education, related to women. So education, women, again, sort of easy topics. Easy because we read them a lot, we hear them a lot, we know it a lot. This is society related questions that we experience, we have been experiencing since childhood. Then the character. So character, about a person's character, a character of a civil servant. So character based essays are also there. Then you have essays on globalization, and again probably simple one, that is related to science and technology, because here in science and technology, generally science and technology, a boon or a bane, these kind of questions will be there, which are not very high rocket science. Here you don't have to write as such cutting edge technology related things. So these are also very generic and easy to write, unless of course UPSC comes up with a very specific particular technology. Let's say they talk about the CRISPR technology. Now then it will become very specific, then you have to be sure. But if it is just talking about science and technology, a boon or a bane, so on and so forth, then that is not a problem as such. Moving ahead, then you have internet information technology, international relations and organizations, then security, international security, miscellaneous, maybe one or two, sometimes a sports related thing is there, so it can come in miscellaneous. But the most important is the quote based or philosophy based essays, which are coming in high numbers these in the last few years. In fact, I have told in one of the year, one section completely was filled with quote based essays, where they have given a quote, that's it. So this quote based essay, it becomes easier for you to write, especially if you know what the quote actually meant by the person who had given that quote, or else high chance that you will not even understand what does this mean and you may go otherwise. That is why it is good that you practice philosophy essays also in your test series. So having said that, we'll now move ahead with an actual UPSC question and discuss that topic in detail. So let us take an actual UPSC topic and dive into the understanding of how to approach that essay. So the essay topic is patriarchy is the least noticed yet the most significant structure of social inequality. Of course, 125 marks, 1000 to 1200 words, asked in mains 2020. Patriarchy is the least noticed. It might be there, it is present, but it is not noticed. It is least noticed is what they're saying, yet it is the most significant structure of social inequality. So first thing is you have to understand what this topic is talking about. So it is saying it's least noticed. Now, if it is the most important or most significant structure, how is it least noticed? It is least noticed because what is constituting of patriarchy or what is coming out of patriarchy, you are assuming it to be normal. So patriarchy is so much ingrained in us that we don't even realize that it is patriarchy, and we take it to be a normal thing. For example, a female cooking the food throughout her life, all the 3 times a day. It is assumed to be a usual task. A given that only a female has to do is assumed and not considered to be a patriarchal thing. Now what is happening? The women are also starting to work, but at the same time, so women are also working, men are also working. But what is happening? Who does the household chores more? The chores more? It's still the female. So what is happening? They are going outside and earning as well as working inside. So there is a double burden on them. So it is a given that they will take care. Who has to take care of the baby? It is a given that the female will take care. Now there are certain things like breastfeeding, etc., which the female has to do, but the other caring, even at a very young age, the father also needs to be involved. But that is not propagated in the society because of the patriarchy, and we think it is a given that these XYZ tasks are the tasks of women. And because we feel it is normalized, we do not see the presence of patriarchy over there. That is why this question talking about patriarchy is the least noticed. It is not noticed, but it is still significantly present in the structure of social inequality. So what can be the introduction? In the introduction, you can start with the proverb, but even if you start with the proverb, that is not an introduction completely. There are a lot of things, etc., you have to write. So you can start with defining patriarchy, but in just the definition again will not cut. So the introduction will consist of a lot of things, unlike GS paper. In GS paper, the introduction is of 10-15 words, 20-25 words if it's a 250 word question. Here it's 1,000-1,200 words, 1,000 or 1,200 words. So here the introduction will be 3/4 page long, around 75 words long. As a result of which you can talk about what is patriarchy, give an example over here, then explain the paradox which I just talked about, that it is the most important thing which is playing the most important role in inequality, yet people are not even noticing it. That paradox you have to give again with the help of example, and introduce the thesis. What is the meaning of the thesis? Introduce your let's say your assumption or your thesis or your take or your way forward, that what do you think with respect to patriarchy. So you build on it, talking about, let's say, the negatives of patriarchy, and you build on that particular thing, and then you talk about patriarchy as social structure. In the introduction, you have established patriarchy is there but not visible because it has been normalized. Now you are going to tell how this patriarchy is ingrained in our institutional structures, in our family structure, social structure, cultural structure. So the first thing we talk about is the institutionalization of patriarchy. Now all these are what? Are institutions of society. Family is the smallest institution, smallest social institution. Even family is an institution. Institution does not generally mean the World Bank, IMF, the organizations. No, a small unit of family of 2 people is also a small social institution. So in family level, how the patriarchy is entrenched. For example, more expenditure on a male child than on a girl child with respect to education, with respect to food. You can give some statistics over there. Then talking about religion, you can take certain examples wherein certain rites or rituals are conducted only by males, or certain things which are probably discriminating are done by the females or towards the females. But when you are writing anything related to religion, make sure that you are giving varied examples. Remember the point I told, it should not happen that with respect to X religion you only give the negative points, and with respect to Y religion you only give the positive points. Avoid doing this, because this clearly shows your biasness, which should not be there. Then with respect to education, again you can talk about the disparity in education which is there, right? The higher you go up in education, the gender inequality will exist. Same is at the workplace. You can talk about gender pay gap. You can talk about then politics. In politics, you can give the example that less than 15% of parliamentary seats are being run by the females. All these examples you have to give at every step. Now, every pointer may not have a factual example. It can have a Supreme Court judgment, it can have a report, it can have a government scheme, it can have an index, so on and so forth. Moving ahead, so that was institutional patriarchy. Now there is cultural patriarchy. In cultural patriarchy, the languages and symbols or the media and entertainment, you can emphasize a lot over here, wherein the representation of females in the media. So if you look at it, you know, maybe now the things are changing, the people are coming up with different types of ads, but just 5 years back, from there you take any advertisement previously, you will realize in all the washing powder ads you will find the females washing the clothes and it's not the males. So these are the kinds of example you have to take which talks about the inbuilt patriarchy in the system. So when children see that advertisement, they realize that in every advertisement it's the mom who's washing the clothes. So mom is supposed to wash the clothes is what is assumed by that particular child, and the child grows up with the thought thinking that this is the lady and she is the one who should be washing the clothes, not the male of the house. So that is how patriarchy is ingrained in the system. Then of course various traditions and customs you can take examples of. Once that is done, so we have ensured how the structure of patriarchy is existing. Now we will be talking about the invisible nature of patriarchy. Invisible nature as in we have established that patriarchy is there, and now we are going to say why it is invisible. It is invisible because it has been normalized. I have assumed that it is the female who has to wash the clothes, so I am not able to understand that it is the patriarchal notion which led to those advertisements which showed only females washing the clothes, which made me think that it is a given. So this normalization of patriarchy makes it invisible. People don't even realize that I am doing this particular thing because of patriarchy, that I am making food 3 times a day for the rest of my life because of patriarchy. So you don't understand it. Why? Because of normalization. It is the most important point. So that is social conditioning, internalized misogyny. All these pointers you have to give, which will tell that it is internalized, it is normalized, and as a result of which it is not visible. Not just that, you can talk about certain legal provisions which are there, gender neutral laws with gendered outcomes. So why gender neutral laws can also be against women? Because when two people are not on the same footing, if you provide them equal things, you are restoring the inequality. I hope that is clear. So if I am standing at a low level and someone else is at a higher level, I need to be given a bigger ladder to ensure that my height is also as similar to the other person. Now, if you are providing same things to two unequal sections of the society, you are actually propagating inequality. That is what is meant by gender neutral laws with gendered outcomes. And one example is that of marital rape, not yet criminalized in India. So you may say that it is not criminalized for both males and females. So how does it matter? It's same. But why it is having a gender inequality issue? Because it is the females who are experiencing marital rape almost all the time. So that is why it is an unequal law. Then of course the implementation failure, the implementation points should come at the very end, not in the beginning. Then you have intersectionality of patriarchy. What does this mean? It means that if a female is facing any discrimination with respect to being female, and in addition to that, if something else will come, she will face a double whammy. For example, if I have to give you an example, a female Dalit, now she will face discrimination based on the fact that she is the Dalit. On top of that, she is a female. So this is a concept of double whammy, wherein all the females face double whammy. So if there is flooding, if there is, let's say no lights on the street, so a male is there, a female is there, the female is more prone to harassment, as a result of which, because of that lack of light or lack of any provision, is going to have a harder impact on the female sections of the society rather than the male. Then going ahead with respect to economic status and gender and the type of work or role the women are doing, unpaid labor, all these things will be mentioned over here. And you can talk about what impact it is creating, the economic impact, the political disempowerment, the percentage of seats in the parliament you can talk about. So decision making power is also taken away. Then social and cultural consequences, son preferences there, son meta preferences there, these kind of phrases you should use. Moral policing is there. People don't tell men what to wear, what not to wear, but we do tell the females what to wear, what not to wear, how to sit, how to stand, how to walk. All those things needs to be mentioned here. And of course, sexual objectification, again the example of advertisements can be given over here. And of course, violence and Operation Domestic Violence Act 2005, honor killing is there, because the female child is considered to be an honor. So if she marries out of caste, she is killed. So we don't talk about, we do not relate honor with men, and we take pride saying that the daughter is our honor. But if she is the honor, well and good, but then you cannot go on and kill her in the name of honor killing. And then cyber harassment also, you will have to put on some facts and figures to show that how these things are heavily biased against the females. Now, once you have talked all about these negative externalities, of course, you have to come up with the solution, that is how to counter it through legal rules, through education, through awareness. Mention another thing over here, sensitization is very important. Just educating you does not help. You should be sensitive towards this issue. So sensitization word needs to be mentioned over here. Economic empowerment is very much required. See, if a woman is not empowered and she is facing domestic violence, she does not even have money, she cannot even walk out of the house. Because if she does, where will she go? Where will she live? How will she survive? But if she is economically empowered, she can anytime walk away from the miserable marriage as well. So economic empowerment is also very important. And of course, reforming social norms, wherein the society itself tells you that this particular thing is not a female's responsibility alone, but the males should also be responsible over here. And then you finally conclude, as we discussed, on a positive goal-oriented role. Now till here it feels absolutely good. You will get good marks. But how to get those additional marks that I talked about in the beginning? Additional mark you should get by doing another thing, which is give another side of it. What is another side? Give another side from the perspective of males, how patriarchy is hampering the males also. Do not leave this side. Majority of the students are going to leave it. You are the ones who should mention the issues patriarchy is throwing on the males as well. What is that issue? Now, since the females are being expected to be the people who are doing domestic work, in the same manner males are expected to always be the breadwinner, right? So in the same manner, you have to talk about certain negatives that the males are also undergoing because of patriarchy. You mention this particular additional point, and if possible, you can also include the transgenders in any essay related to gender equality. Now, when the essay is related to gender equality, it should majorly be about males and females. There's no doubt. We have seen how the UPSC asks questions, so it has to be majorly that. But in an essay, a paragraph or two of transgender has to be mentioned. If you're talking about patriarchy, a paragraph or two about negativities or negative externalities of males also have to be mentioned in order to give a different perspective, which very few students will be giving. I hope this topic is absolutely clear. In the next session, we'll take up many more particular previous year UPSC essay topics. Thank you.